So it must really tick you off, all this stuff about Biden and his age.
It does. I think it's sort of an ageism. He's done a brilliant job, I think, as president. He's strengthened NATO. He's been able to galvanize people around critical values that are at stake in Ukraine, critical values. I don't know what has happened to a lot of people who back away from that now, because the cost of not persevering would be just extraordinary for the world. And I think he knows how the Congress works, he knows America, and he also knows how the world works. And that's what you need today.
He knows how the world works. Climate czar John Kerry criticizing those who say Biden is too old to be running for president. Fox News contributor and former Congressman Jason Chaffetz joins us now. Merry Christmas Eve, Jason. What's your take?
Christmas.
I mean, you served in Congress. You know what are the rigorous challenges to be in the line of fire. In the president, you're at the top of the totem pole in terms of responsibilities. You have to have all your mental faculties, but yet John Kerry says no problem. He's good to go. What do you make of it?
Well, let's remember Joe Biden was first elected to the United States Senate in 1972. Now, I was barely starting to kick a soccer ball back then, so he's been there a while. I don't think it's as much about ageism as it is about the idea that about Joe Biden's ability to negotiate. And when I say negotiate stairs, bicycles, and teleprompters. I mean, those seem to be a big challenge for this president these days. And he leads a lifestyle that it's just, his ability to do the most vigorous job on the planet. I mean, would you get on an airplane if the guy was flying the plane? I wouldn't. I don't know that he would qualify to get a golf cart driver's license in the Villages. I wouldn't. Would you do that with him? I wouldn't want to ride in a golf cart with him. This is the problem. It's not how old he is. He just not up to the job.
You raised the point there, and we were just showing, as we're showing video now of the president tripping up the stairs, but on the bike, falling over on the bike. And actually, John Kerry is an avid cyclist, like the Tour de France, cycles. And I've seen him numerous times. I ride, full disclosure. I've seen him out on a popular trail that we ride. I saw him as recent as, I believe, last summer. And so, being 80 years old, John Kerry's 80, being 80, and having, the ability to still maintain a racing road bike versus what we see from President Biden falling off of a bike in Rehoboth on a beach stroll, on a beach cruiser, is an entirely different thing.
Yeah, I mean, he was barely able to try to pick up the beach chair at the beach. And look, the lifestyle, the idea that something like 40% of the time he's off at his home, or his beach house, by all reports, does not lead a vigorous a schedule there in the White House. And it's not as if, hey, the camera's on you all the time and you had a couple stumbles. This is a regular occurrence with Joe Biden, and everybody knows it. To try to deny that he's in cognitive decline, come on, it's just not realistic.
Jason, just yesterday, day before, the deputy campaign manager for Biden's campaign was saying something to the effect that, their, quote, secret sauce was his ability in being a retail politician, and that they looked forward to, quote, getting him to every state to get him out there pressing the flesh. Do you honestly see that he is able to maintain that kind of campaign schedule and to use what clearly he did and has had in his very long political career, show that he's a retail politician, but to undertake that kind of campaign as the campaign manager, deputy campaign manager says they're going to do you see that happening?
Well, look, his decline in the polls, I would argue, is primarily because his policies are failing. I mean, it's all about safety, safety at home, safety in your wallet, safety out on the streets, safety on the border, safety overseas. And by all those accounts, he is failing. But to suggest that more cowbell, more Joe Biden out on the campaign trail, pressing the flesh, giving impromptu speeches is the solution, go for it, folks, because he can't do it. That's the fundamental problem. You compare it to any of the Republican nominees or candidates at this point, certainly Donald Trump. You never hear these criticisms about Donald Trump because he's one of the most vigorous people out there. Nobody can keep up with his schedule. He's unbelievable. He never runs out of energy. But you compare and contrast it to Joe Biden. Let's see if Joe Biden actually does debates. If he's the nominee, and I don't think he will be, I don't think he can do debates.
It's fascinating to hear that that's their strategy, because I don't know what the plan B will be if he shows that he can't maintain that sort of rigorous schedule. I only got like 15, 20 seconds. What do you predict happens? What's their plan B?
I don't think he'll be the nominee. I really don't. I think Democrats understand this. They know it. They look at all the polling. I don't think he'll be the nominee. I don't know who the other person is, but their bench is pretty shallow at this point.
Jason Chaffetz joining us, weighing in on that. Merry Christmas Eve. Good luck. Last-minute Christmas shopping, doing some cooking. I don't know if you're cooking a goose like Dr. Sapphire is, but some people are undertaking a lot of work coming up here on Christmas. Jason, thanks so much.
I'm the eater, not the cooker. I eat.
Smart man, smart man. Merry Christmas.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.